The day my parents chose my brother's wedding over my future, I wore a navy dress and pearl earrings. I'd picked them carefully, sophisticated enough for a family dinner, professional enough for my big announcement. My acceptance letter to Columbia burned in my purse like a lit match. My name is Madison, and that was the last night I ever felt like their daughter. I remember the click of my heels on the marble foyer, the way Mum barely looked up from her tablet when I walked in. Dad stood by the window, swirling scotch in a crystal glass, while Grayson and his fiancée Yolanda lounged on the leather sofa like they owned the place. "Perfect timing, sweetie," Mum said, still scrolling. "We have wonderful news." I clutched my purse tighter. Me too, actually. I wanted to tell everyone. Grayson and Yolanda have set a date. Mum's face lit up like Christmas morning. 6 weeks from Saturday, right here at the estate. 6 weeks? I blinked. That's really soon. Yolanda flashed her enormous diamond ring. When you know, and the venue we wanted had a cancellation. "The Rosewood Ballroom," Mum sighed. "It's absolutely perfect." I forced a smile, fingers brushing my acceptance letter. "That's great, but I actually have something important to—" "Speaking of important matters," Dad interrupted, turning from the window. "Madison, we need to discuss your university fund." My heart leapt, finally. Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to talk about. I got my acceptance letter today and we're using it for the wedding. The words hit like a slap. What? "The Rosewood requires a substantial deposit," Mum explained, as if discussing the weather. "And with the catering, flowers and everything else. Well, we had to make some adjustments." Adjustments?" My voice cracked. "That money was for my education." "You can always go to community college," Yolanda offered sweetly. "Lots of people do that nowadays." I stared at my parents. "You can't be serious. I worked so hard for this. I got a partial scholarship." "Which means you'd still need the full fund and more," Dad cut in. "This way, the money serves the whole family. Your brother's wedding will establish important connections for all of us." "The whole family?" I laughed, sharp and hollow. "You mean Grayson, again?" "Don't be dramatic," Mum sighed. "You're young. You can work for a few years. Save up. While my acceptance expires and my scholarship disappears." My hands shook. "Everything I've worked for?" "We'll have to wait," Dad said firmly. "Family comes first." "I am family." The words burst out before I could stop them. Silence fell. Grayson shifted uncomfortably. Yolanda examined her manicure. "Madison," Mum's voice turned ice cold. "That's enough. The decision is made." I looked at each of them. Mum's dismissal, Dad's stern disappointment, Grayson's awkward avoidance, Yolanda's smug little smile. Years of straight A's, perfect test scores, extra credit and summer programs, all sacrificed for crystal champagne flutes and designer centerpieces. "Fine," I straightened my spine. "Congratulations on your wedding." I turned and walked out, my heels echoing on marble one last time. 6 weeks later, I stood in the shadows of the Rosewood Ballroom, watching them all toast to new beginnings. The crystals sparkled, the music soared, and my brother danced with his bride under a cascade of white orchids that cost more than a semester's textbooks. "To the happy couple!" Dad's voice boomed. "To family!" Everyone cheered. I didn't raise my glass. Instead, I watched them celebrate in the house that had witnessed 18 years of my silent submission. The estate where I'd studied under oak trees and dreamed of ivory towers. Where I'd learned finally that blood meant nothing when measured against golden children and social climbing. A server passed with more champagne. I took a glass not to drink, but to make a promise to myself. Someday I would stand in this ballroom again. Someday they would understand exactly what they'd thrown away. I raised the glass in a silent toast of my own, to revenge served cold, to karma wrapped in legal documents, to the day they would beg me for mercy, and I would remember this moment. Then I set down the untouched champagne, walked out of the estate, and didn't look back. I had work to do. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I scrubbed another coffee stain from the carpet of some executive's corner office. 3 months after the wedding, and here I was, night cleaning crew at Morton and Price Real Estate Development. Not exactly where I'd planned to be at 22, but plans change when your college fund becomes someone else's centerpieces. "Madison?" A familiar voice made me freeze. "Oh my God, it is you!" Rachel Peters. We'd been in AP Calculus together. Now she stood in designer heels, clutching a leather portfolio, staring at me like I was a car accident she couldn't look away from. I straightened up slowly, still holding the cleaning rag. "Hi, Rachel." "I heard you dropped out," she said, her sympathy so thick it choked. "Everyone was shocked. You were supposed to go to Columbia, right?" "Plans changed." I kept my voice neutral, professional. That's too bad." She shifted uncomfortably. "Well, I should go. I have a meeting with the investment team. I'm interning here while I finish my MBA. Of course she was. After she clicked away, I went back to scrubbing, but harder this time. Each stroke of the rag became a promise. I wouldn't be on my knees forever. During the lunch breaks, I started reading everything I could find about real estate development, property law, market analysis, investment strategies. The night security guard caught me studying borrowed reports in empty conference rooms and started leaving the lights on for me. "You're wasting your time here," a voice said one night. I looked up from my notes to find a man in an expensive suit watching me from the doorway. I recognized him from the company website. Elliot Cunningham, senior partner. "I'm sorry," I started gathering my things. "I know I shouldn't be—" "That's not what I meant." He walked in and picked up one of my notebooks. "These are impressive analyses. Where did you learn to read market projections like this?" "I taught myself, sir." He studied me for a long moment. "You're on the cleaning crew, for now." Something in my tone made him smile. "Come to my office tomorrow morning, 9 sharp. We might have a better use for your skills." That's how I went from cleaning offices to answering phones at the front desk, then to administrative assistant, then junior analyst. I worked 14-hour days, took online courses at night, and lived in a studio apartment so small I could touch both walls with my arms outstretched. My phone buzzed one evening as I was reviewing property listings. Grayson's name lit up the screen. "Maddie, your big brother has amazing news." I hadn't spoken to him since the wedding. "I'm working, Grayson." "You're always working. But listen, Yolanda and I just bought a lake house. Can you believe it? 5 bedrooms, private dock, the works. Mum and Dad are so proud." Of course they were. "That's great," I said flatly. "You should come see it. We're having a housewarming next month. Mum says you never return her calls anymore." "I'm busy." "Come on, don't be like that. Family is." I hung up. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Your brother is trying to include you. Stop being difficult." I blocked both their numbers. Later that night, I met my friend Isabelle for drinks. She was the only one from high school I still talked to, now crushing it at a law firm downtown. "Grayson bought a lake house," I told her, stirring my martini. "Of course he did," she rolled her eyes. "Probably mortgaged to the hilt." "Definitely, but Mum and Dad are so proud." "Screw them," Isabelle leaned forward. "Look at what you've done without their help. Elliot told me you're up for promotion to senior analyst." I smiled. "How do you know Elliot?" "Our firms work together sometimes. He says you're the sharpest person on his team." "I'm learning." I took a sip of my drink. "Did you know the average return on investment for luxury properties in this market is 23% over 5 years? Isabelle laughed. "God, you're such a nerd. I love it." Then she got serious. "Have you thought about reaching out to them? It's been almost 2 years." Nothing's changed. They made their choice. I set down my glass. Now I'm making mine. My phone buzzed again. Elliot, this time. A text about a major property going into foreclosure. Perfect timing. I have to go, I told Isabelle. Work calls. Always does. She hugged me goodbye. Just don't let revenge become your whole life, okay? I smiled as I gathered my things. It's not revenge, it's investment in my future. But as I headed back to the office, Grayson's Lake House announcement echoed in my mind, the first crack in their perfect facade. I'd been waiting for something like this. Time to start planning. 10 years can change everything. I sat in my corner office, 32 stories above the city, reviewing acquisition reports while my assistant brought in my afternoon coffee. The scared girl scrubbing carpets was gone, replaced by someone who made million-dollar decisions before lunch. "Miss Madison!" Sarah, my assistant, hovered in the doorway. "Your friend Isabelle is here. She says it's urgent." I looked up from my laptop. Isabelle never made unscheduled visits. She burst in before I could respond, waving her phone. "Have you seen this?" I took the device from her shaking hand. A local news article blazed across the screen. Cedar Glen Estate faces foreclosure. Historic family property to be auctioned. My childhood home? The estate where I'd lost everything. "Apparently," Isabelle continued, pacing, "your dear brother's restaurant chain went under. 6 locations, all bankrupt. He'd leveraged the estate as collateral for the business loans." I set the phone down carefully. "And my parents?" "Co-signed everything from what I hear. They're going down with the ship." A knock at the door interrupted us. Elliot walked in, his face grim. "I assume you've heard." "Just now?" I gestured to the chair across from my desk. "Tell me everything." "It's a mess." He sat down, loosening his tie. Grayson borrowed against every inch of equity in that place. When the restaurants failed, the banks called in the loans. Your parents tried to refinance, but their golden boy already destroyed their credit," I finished. Elliot nodded. "Private auction in 3 weeks. Starting bid $2 million. Isabelle whistled. "That's practically a steal for that property. The banks want a quick sale." Elliot watched me carefully. "Madison, are you thinking what I think you're thinking?" I stood and walked to the window, looking out over the city I'd conquered one deal at a time. "Tell me about our shell companies." "We have 3 LLCs set up for anonymous acquisitions, clean, untraceable." He paused. "But this is personal, are you sure?" I turned back to face them. Everything they did to me was personal. Why shouldn't this be? "Because revenge is messy," Isabelle said softly, "and you've worked too hard to let them drag you back into their drama." "This isn't about revenge." I walked back to my desk and pulled up my investment portfolio. "This is about justice, about karma finally collecting its debt." Elliot leaned forward. "If we do this, we do it right. No emotional decisions, no mistakes." "When have I ever been emotional about business?" He smiled slightly. "Fair point. I'll have the paperwork ready tomorrow." After they left, I pulled up the estate's listing photos on my screen. The grand staircase where I'd practiced my graduation speech, the library where I'd studied for SATs, the garden where Mum had told me to stop being so academic and learn to be more charming. My phone buzzed, a text from Yolanda to my old number. "I know we haven't spoken in years, but please help. Your brother is falling apart. Your parents are losing everything." I deleted it without responding. Another buzz, Mum this time. "Madison, if you're reading this, we need you. Family has to stick together." Family? The word tasted like ash. I called Elliot back. "Move up the timeline. I want to view the property tomorrow." The next morning, I stood at the estate's gates, wearing dark sunglasses and a business suit that cost more than my first year's salary. The once pristine gardens were overgrown, the fountain dry. Through the iron bars, I could see Yolanda's luxury SUV parked crookedly on the circular drive. "The current owners are still in residence," the realtor said apologetically, "but they've been notified about the viewing." "That won't be necessary." I turned away. "I've seen enough." Back in my office, I drafted an email to our lawyers. Subject line: Acquisition of Cedar Glen Estate. The message was simple: proceed with all necessary preparations. No expense spared. Isabel called just before midnight. I heard through the grapevine that Yolanda's already shopping for apartments, rats fleeing the ship. Good. I was still at my desk, reviewing auction procedures. Let them run. "Madison," she hesitated, "what are you going to do with the estate once you have it?" I looked at the old photo on my desk, a younger me standing under the oak trees, acceptance letter in hand, before everything fell apart. "I'm going to take back what's mine, and then I'm going to make them watch while I decide their fate." "Just promise me something." "What?" "Make it worth all these years of waiting." I smiled as I closed my laptop. "Oh, don't worry. I plan to make this absolutely unforgettable." The auction was in 2 weeks. Time to prepare for the performance of a lifetime. The private auction was held in a mahogany-panelled room at the Westbrook Hotel. I sat in the back, wearing a charcoal grey suit and dark glasses, while Elliot handled the bidding. We'd agreed it was safer if I stayed anonymous. Just another representative from a faceless investment group. My family sat in the front row. Mum clutched her designer handbag like a life preserver. Dad stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. Grayson slumped in his chair, Yolanda notably absent. The auctioneer cleared his throat. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're here today for the private auction of Cedar Glen Estate, lot number 2749. I tuned out his description of the property. I knew every inch of those grounds, every creaking floorboard, every hidden corner. Instead, I watched my mother's shoulders shake slightly as the auctioneer detailed the foreclosure terms. "Opening bid stands at $2 million. Do I hear 2 million? A hand went up near the front, a local developer I recognised. Mum turned to look at him, hope flickering across her face. 2 million, thank you, sir. Do I hear 2.2? Elliot raised his paddle. 2.2. The developer turned around, frowning. 2.4. 2.6, Elliot countered smoothly. Grayson whipped around, scanning the room. His eyes passed over me without recognition. I'd changed more than they knew. 2.8, the developer called, sounding less confident. Elliot didn't hesitate. 3 million. A gasp rippled through the room. Mum's hand flew to her throat. The developer shook his head slightly. The auctioneer's gavel hovered. $3 million, going once. Wait! Yolanda burst through the doors, mascara streaked down her face. Please, wait! The auctioneer paused. Ma'am? She stumbled to the front, gripping the podium. This estate has been in the Harrison family for generations. You can't just... We have investors coming. They just need more time to... Ma'am, the auctioneer cut in firmly, this is a private auction, unless you're here to bid. Please, she turned to the room, desperate. Someone help us save it. We'll pay you back, I swear. Grayson's starting a new business venture. I had to bite back a laugh, still trying to con their way out of consequences. 3 million, Elliot repeated calmly. Final offer. The auctioneer nodded. 3 million going once? Going twice? Mum stood up suddenly. Can we at least know who's buying it? The winning bidder is represented by Cornerstone Holdings, LLC, the auctioneer replied. That's not a real answer, Grayson shouted, standing. We have a right to know. Actually, Elliot said, you don't. Sold properties at auction are public record, but private investment groups are under no obligation to reveal their individual members. The gavel fell with a crack that echoed through the room. Sold to Cornerstone Holdings LLC for $3 million. Yolanda crumpled to the floor, sobbing. Dad helped Mum toward the door, her legs shaking. Grayson stormed out, kicking a chair as he went. I stayed seated until they were gone, then walked to where Elliot waited with the paperwork. "Congratulations," he said quietly. "You now own Cedar Glen Estate." I signed the documents with steady hands, my signature flowing smooth and sure, a decade of waiting condensed into a few strokes of ink. "What now?" Elliot asked as we walked out. "Now we start the eviction process. Give them 30 days, as required by law." "And then?" I smiled. "Then I think it's time for a family reunion." Back at the office, Isabelle was waiting with champagne. "To Karma," she toasted, handing me a glass. "To justice," Elliot added. I raised my glass but didn't drink. "To the look on their faces when they find out who really owns their precious estate." About that, Isabelle set down her glass. "I did some digging. Apparently, Yolanda's been calling every real estate investor in the city, promising returns of 40% if they'll help save the family legacy. Let her try." I walked to the window. "The papers are signed. It's done." Speaking of papers," Elliot pulled out a folder. "These just came from legal, official eviction notices, ready for delivery. How do you want to handle it?" I took the folder, running my fingers over the embossed letterhead. "In person, they deserve that much at least." "Madison," Isabelle started. "Don't worry, I'll be professional, cold, distant." I smiled slightly. Everything they taught me to be. Elliot raised an eyebrow. "Poetic justice costs exactly $2 million, and some change, it seems." "No," I corrected him, tucking the folder into my briefcase. "Justice was free. I just had to wait for it." The sun was setting over the city, painting the sky the same colour as revenge. In 30 days I would stand in that ballroom again, but this time I'd be the one giving orders, and they would finally learn exactly what they'd created when they broke my dreams. The estate keys felt heavy in my hand as I walked up the overgrown driveway. 2 weeks into the 30-day eviction period, and the property already showed signs of surrender. Dead leaves scattered across the marble steps. A shutter hung loose, tapping against weathered brick. "Jesus," Elliot muttered beside me. "They really let this place go." They always were better at appearances than maintenance. I unlocked the front door. Let's see what's left inside. The foyer still smelled like Mum's expensive perfume, but everything else had changed. Dusty sheets draped the furniture. Rectangular outlines on the walls showed where paintings had been hastily removed. Moving boxes lined the hallway, some already sealed and labelled. "Your mother sent another email to Cornerstone Holdings," Elliot said, checking his phone, "begging for an extension on the eviction." "What did legal say?" Standard response. "Terms are non-negotiable." A noise upstairs made us both look up. Footsteps, then Yolanda's voice. "I told you we're packing as fast as we can." She appeared at the top of the stairs, freezing when she saw us. "Oh, I thought you were the movers." "Just inspecting the property," Elliot said smoothly. "Standard procedure." She descended slowly, designer heels clicking on marble. "You people are heartless. Do you know how long this house has been in the family?" "Long enough to mortgage it 3 times over," I replied coldly. She flinched. "We had bad luck with the restaurants. It could happen to anyone." 6 failed locations in 2 years isn't bad luck, it's bad management. Who are you to judge? She stepped closer, squinting at me. Behind your fancy suits and corporate shell companies, you've probably never built anything real in your life. I bit back a laugh, if she only knew. "Mrs. Harrison," Elliot interrupted, "we're here to document the property's condition. Are there any maintenance issues we should know about?" She waved dismissively. "Ask Grayson. He handles all that." Like he handled the restaurants? I couldn't resist. Her face darkened. "Get out. You have no right to be here yet." Actually, We have every right. I pulled out my phone and took a photo of a water stain on the ceiling. But we're done for today. Outside, Elliot shook his head. She really doesn't recognize you. Why would she? She never really saw me in the first place. We walked through the gardens, documenting the decay. The rose bushes Mum had obsessed over were wild and thorny. The bench where I used to study was rotting. A memory hit me. Sitting there at 16, reading advanced chemistry while Mum lectured about feminine pursuits. All those books won't find you a husband, she'd said. Look at your brother. Barely opens a textbook, but everyone loves him. I don't want everyone to love me, I'd replied. I want to achieve something. She'd sighed that disappointed sigh I knew so well. Achievements don't keep you warm at night, Madison. Now I stood in the same spot, worth more than they'd ever dreamed, and felt nothing but cold satisfaction. My phone buzzed, an email from Mom to the corporate account. Dear new owners, I know business is business, but please understand, this isn't just a house. This is where we raised our children, where we built our lives. My daughter, she used to read under the oak trees, before she changed, before she left us. Maybe if we'd kept the estate, she'd have come home eventually. Please, give us more time. Let us try to save what's left of our family. Ava. I showed Elliot the email. He whistled softly. That's manipulative. That's Mom. I deleted the message. Always trying to use me, even when she doesn't know she is. Madison, he hesitated. Are you sure you want to do the eviction in person? We could send representatives. No. I watched a leaf spiral down from the dying oak tree. They need to see exactly who they're losing it to. And then I turned this monument to their failures into something useful. I started walking back to the car. Something that actually helps people instead of just looking impressive at parties. You never told me what. I smiled slightly. You'll see. First, we need to clear out the rot. Back in my car, I found another email waiting, this one from Grayson to Cornerstone. To whom it may concern, this is just a temporary setback. I have new investors lined up. Name your price. We can make a deal. Grayson. I forwarded it to legal without responding. Let him think he could still talk his way out of consequences. In 2 weeks, they'd all learn exactly how permanent their mistakes had become. You never begged for my dreams, I whispered to the empty house. Now it's my turn not to listen. The morning of the eviction, I dressed with surgical precision, charcoal Armani suit, blood-red silk blouse, stilettos that cost more than my first month's rent, war armour, perfectly tailored. You don't have to do this yourself, Isabelle said, watching me apply lipstick in my office bathroom. The lawyers could handle it. No, I checked my reflection one last time. They need to see exactly who they lost to. Elliot met us in the lobby. Security team's already at the estate. Your parents and Grayson are all there. Perfect. I smoothed my jacket. Let's end this. The drive felt surreal. 10 years of planning distilled into a single morning. We pulled up to the estate just as rain started falling, nature's own dramatic backdrop. 2 security guards flanked the front door. Through the windows, I could see movement inside. My heart thundered, but my hands were steady as I pulled out the final eviction notice. Ready? Elliot asked quietly. I nodded and walked up the familiar steps one last time. The doorbell echoed inside. Footsteps approached. Then the door opened, and I found myself face to face with my mother. She blinked, confused. Madison? Hello, Mom. Her face went through a kaleidoscope of emotions, shock, disbelief, dawning horror. What are you doing here? Where are Dad and Grayson? They should hear this too. Hear what? Dad appeared behind her. Madison, what's going on? Living room, I said calmly. Now. They followed like sleepwalkers. Grayson was already there, pacing between boxes. He froze when he saw me. Maddie, why are you? His eyes landed on the papers in my hand. Understanding crashed across his face. No, it can't be. Can't be what? Mum looked between us. What's happening? I pulled out the eviction notice. I'm here representing Cornerstone Holdings LLC. As of today, you are officially evicted from this property. The silence was absolute. You, Dad whispered, you bought the estate. Karma's funny that way. I set the papers on a box. You have 1 hour to collect any remaining personal items. Everything else will be disposed of. This is a joke. Mum's voice shook. This has to be a joke. Like using my college fund for his wedding was a joke. I gestured to Grayson. Or maybe like leveraging the house for his failed restaurants. We're your parents, Dad shouted. You stopped being my parents the day you decided his dreams were worth more than mine. Grayson stepped forward. Maddie, please, we can work something out. I have new investors. No. The word cut like glass. You don't get to negotiate. You don't get to charm your way out. Not this time. I'll call the police, Mum threatened. For what? I own this property legally. Every document filed, every payment made. The security team outside will escort you out in 1 hour, with or without your cooperation. Dad sank into a chair. How did you afford this? I built something while you were busy destroying everything. I smiled coldly. Turns out all those books did pay off. You vindictive bitch, Grayson spat. You planned this all along. No, you did this. Every entitled decision, every financial disaster. I just waited and watched. I checked my watch. 55 minutes left. Mum started crying. Please, Madison, we can be a family again. We'll do better. Family? I laughed. You want to talk about family now? We made a mistake, she sobbed. We were wrong about everything. Yes, you were. I turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and Mum, achievements actually keep me very warm at night. Madison, wait, Dad called out. What will people think? The scandal? They'll think you failed. They'll think you lost everything, and they'll be right. I walked out, their protests fading behind me. Elliot and Isabel waited by the car. Well, Isabel asked. It's done. My voice didn't shake. Have the cleaning crew ready tomorrow. I want every trace of them gone. And the renovation plans? Start immediately. I want the Women's Education Centre open by spring. A crash came from inside, something expensive breaking. Then Grayson's voice, This isn't over. Actually, I said, loud enough for them to hear through the open door, it is. The rain fell harder as we drove away. In the rearview mirror, I watched my family stand in the doorway of the house that was no longer theirs, getting soaked as their world crumbled. How do you feel? Elliot asked softly. I thought about the girl in the navy dress with the acceptance letter, about broken dreams and broken promises, about justice finally served. I feel like going back to work, I said. We have a renovation to plan. The news broke 3 days after the eviction. Local papers ran the story with predictably dramatic headlines. Family estate falls to mystery buyer. Social elite faces financial ruin. Yolanda filed for divorce the same week, citing irreconcilable differences and moving in with her parents. I was reviewing renovation plans in my office when Sarah buzzed in. Ms. Madison, your mother's here. I looked up sharply. I don't take unscheduled visitors. She's quite insistent. Through the glass walls, I could see Mum in the reception area, still wearing designer clothes but somehow diminished. The queen without her castle. Send her in. She entered like a ghost of herself, clutching her purse with white knuckles. Madison? You should have made an appointment. Would you have seen me? She sat without being invited. We're living in a 2-bedroom condo now. Your father barely speaks. Grayson's drinking. Not my problem. How can you be so cold? Her voice cracked. We raised you. You raised me to be exactly this. I kept my voice level, calculating, unsentimental, focused on winning at all costs. We made mistakes. No, I stood up. A mistake is forgetting a birthday. A mistake is saying something harsh in anger. What you did was a choice, a deliberate, calculated decision to sacrifice my future for his. We thought it was best for the family. Best for the family, I laughed. Look how well that turned out. Your golden boy destroyed everything you had. Please, she was crying now, have mercy. Let us buy it back, work out some kind of payment plan. Like you gave me a payment plan for my education. She flinched. You want mercy? I walked around the desk. Fine, here's mercy. I'm turning the estate into an education centre for young women who don't have family support. Every year, it will help dozens of girls achieve what you tried to stop me from achieving. You're doing this to punish us. No, Mom, I'm doing this because it needs to be done. Because somewhere right now, there's another girl being told her dreams don't matter as much as someone else's. We can change, she whispered. Give us another chance. Something inside me cracked. 10 years of carefully contained anger spilled out. Another chance? My voice shook. I spent years cleaning offices at night, studying investment strategies in empty conference rooms, building everything from nothing. Where were you then? Where was my chance? Madison? I cried myself to sleep in an apartment so small I could barely breathe while you threw parties in that ballroom. I worked 14-hour days while Grayson bankrupted 6 restaurants. I earned every single thing I have while you handed him everything until there was nothing left. She stared at me, finally seeing the damage they'd done. Get out. My voice was ice again. And don't come back. I'm still your mother. No, you're just another failed investment. After she left, Isabelle found me staring out my office window. You okay? They never even apologized. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass. Not once in 10 years. Because they still don't think they did anything wrong. She touched my shoulder. The renovation team needs final approval on the library plans. I wiped my eyes. Right, the library. It needs to be perfect. It will be. She paused. Grayson's leaving town, moving to Florida to start fresh. Running away, it's what he does best. And your parents? Living off Dad's pension in a condo across town. I turned from the window. Mum came to beg for mercy. Did it feel good, finally having them at your mercy? I thought about Mum's tears, about the satisfaction I'd expected to feel. It felt empty. Maybe because revenge wasn't really the point. No? I raised an eyebrow. No, this was about justice, about making something meaningful from what they tried to destroy. She smiled. Come on, the contractors are waiting. Later that night, I stood in the estate's empty ballroom. The space where I'd once made my silent vow echoed with possibility now. Tomorrow, construction would begin. These walls would hear different sounds, young women's voices, dreams being built instead of broken. My phone buzzed, a text from Elliot. Local news wants to interview the mysterious buyer who's turning Cedar Glen into an education centre. Ready to go public? I typed back, no, let the work speak for itself. In the end, that's what mattered. Not the revenge, not the satisfaction of their downfall, but what rose from the ashes of their choices. Something stronger, something better. I walked out of the ballroom, leaving the ghosts of that wedding day behind. Tomorrow would bring scaffolding and blueprints, the sound of rebuilding. It was time to create something new. The autumn breeze carried the sound of laughter through the estate's open windows. Inside, 20 young women gathered in what used to be the formal dining room, now transformed into a bright study space. Their voices mixed with the tapping of laptops and rustling of papers, the music of dreams being built. "Miss Madison?" Sarah appeared in the doorway. "The first round of scholarship applications is ready for review." I nodded, taking one last look at the scene before following her out. We passed the spot where Mum used to display her precious china collection. Now that wall held a mural of famous female scientists, entrepreneurs, and leaders. In my office, formerly Dad's study, Isabelle waited with a stack of folders. 112 applications, she said, for 15 spots. We'll expand next term. I sat down at the desk. How many are first-generation college students? 70%, she handed me the first file. This one reminded me of you. The application showed a girl with perfect grades and burning ambition, whose parents wanted her to skip college and work in their family business. My throat tightened. Put her in the yes pile. A knock interrupted us. Elliot entered, holding a newspaper. "You need to see this." The article was small, tucked in the society pages. Former social elite Grayson Harrison files for bankruptcy in Florida. "There's more," Elliot said quietly. "Your father had a minor heart attack last week." I set down the application. "Is he... He's stable. Your mother's caring for him in their condo." The old Madison would have felt satisfaction. Instead, I felt nothing. Their drama belonged to a different life now. "Any word from Yolanda?" Isabelle asked. "Remarried to a hedge fund manager." Elliot shrugged. "Some patterns never change." I turned back to the applications. We have more important things to focus on. Later, walking through the renovated house, I found myself in my old bedroom. We'd turned it into a small library, but one wall still held the hidden closet where I'd kept my most precious possessions. The panel opened with a familiar click. Inside, dusty but intact, sat my old pressed flower journal. Mum had hated this hobby, said it was a waste of time better spent on social skills. I opened it carefully. Dried roses, violets and daisies from the garden filled the pages. Near the back, I found what I was looking for. A pressed oak leaf from the day I received my acceptance letter. "Miss Madison?" A student stood in the doorway. Jessica, one of our first scholarship recipients. "Sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to show you something." She held out an acceptance letter of her own. Harvard Medical School. "They said yes," she beamed. "I couldn't have done it without this place." I looked at the letter, then at the dried oak leaf. "Actually, you could have, but I'm glad you didn't have to. My parents finally called," she said quietly. After seeing the acceptance letter, they said maybe they were wrong about medical school being a waste of time. "And what did you say?" "I said thank you, but I'd already learned to believe in myself." She straightened her shoulders. "You taught us that." After she left, I walked down to the ballroom. The space that once hosted shallow celebrations now served as our main classroom. On the wall, where crystal champagne flutes once sparkled, a quote stretched in elegant script: "Your dreams are not negotiable." My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Your father's asking for you." I started typing, not interested, then stopped, deleted it. Instead, I wrote, "I'm busy building something, like I always wanted to." Her response came quickly. "We see that now. Better late than never." "No, Mom. Sometimes late is just late." I put the phone away and pulled out the stack of applications. Each one represented a chance to prevent another girl from facing what I had faced. Each acceptance letter we sent would be a blow against every parent who thought their daughter's dreams were expendable. The oak trees outside cast long shadows through the windows. Soon the garden would bloom again, not with Mum's precious roses, but with wild flowers planted by our students, untamed, resilient, free. I placed Jessica's Harvard acceptance letter on the wall, the first of many to come. Below it, I pinned my dried oak leaf, a reminder that broken dreams sometimes grow into something stronger. This was my revenge, not destruction, but creation, not taking away, but giving back. Every young woman who walked through these doors would carry a piece of my victory forward, and that was worth more than any estate could ever be.